Rocky V is probably recognized as one of the worst movies in the Rocky franchise. It definitely does not give the fans the feel that all the other Rocky movies did, and which is why Stallone came out with Rocky Balboa many years later. He, I believe, said that it was kind of like an apology for Part 5. But what I find interesting about this whole thing regarding Rocky V is that apparently people have been keeping track of Rocky Balboa's son's age throughout the movies. In fact, it's gotten so interesting that apparently a fan theory talks about why Rocky's son was 9 years old at Rocky IV, but was 14 in Part 5. And we're going to discuss this fan theory and how mistakes were made in Rocky V, but at the same time, a ridiculous theory is out there trying to support the mistake that was made. Okay, so the article comes from Screen Rant. Rocky theory finally explains Robert Balboa's infamous age jump plot hole. Rocky Balboa Jr. is 5 years older in Rocky V than he is in Rocky IV, creating a plot hole. This theory blames political interference. So the theory to why his son is 9 years old in Rocky IV and now is 14 in Part 5 is basically because people believe that after Rocky defeated Ivan Drago in Part 4, that the Soviet Union, while acknowledging his victory, retaliated against Rocky and his family by keeping them over in the Soviet Union for 5 years. And there are other part of the theory is that this explains one reason why Balboa ran into financial problems. The claim is that while over there being held by the Soviet Union, basically denied the visas to leave the country, the Balboas had to spend all their money on hotel accommodations, basically going broke there, but that's not what happened. The fan theory again has us believe that his son is supposed to be 14, but there are problems with this whole idea. The article that opens up to the Balboa estate auction, there's a small paragraph on the left, and I'm sorry for the blurriness of it, but it indicates that the auction, or rather not the auction, but events were taking place and stock events, stock options, all sorts of information happening in this news article. And one specific thing to the far left here indicates the date. The date is 1987, and that is the same time this auction is supposed to take place, in 1987. The theory about Rocky's son being 14 just doesn't fly with all the evidence that is presented out there. And you can do a Google search, do reviews of the movie, go find reviews of the movie, and you'll see that this movie is supposed to take place immediately after his fight with Drago. That fight took place in 1985 on Christmas in Russia, and he returned to the United States in 1986. The auctioning of his home, his estate, and all his assets took place in 1987, which would make his son about 11 years old, which means that the theory does not hold up. And let's be honest about this. After a media event like what just took place, Rocky versus Drago, would the Soviet Union really try to hold him as a prisoner for 5 years? I don't think that would be the case. But this fan theory is just so ridiculous. And while we're on the subject of ridiculous, let's talk about one thing that irritates me about Rocky V. The fact that Rocky would sign over his power of attorney to Paulie. In the movie, Paulie is explaining his actions as it was a tax extension. That's all it was supposed to be. But for the love of God, would you really want to sign over any major responsibilities to your financial welfare to Paulie? And think about this. The whole premise behind this, again, Rocky goes broke because, number one, he never paid the taxes for 6 years, and number two, he still owed money on his house. But going back to Rocky IV for a minute, it is Paulie and Rocky that go over to Russia Adrian stays home. So why in the world would Paulie have anything to do with concerning the finances of the house? Adrian would have been the one responsible for that. And I think she would have been kicking and screaming all the way, knowing that Paulie signed over anything. Rocky IV was a great movie. Many argue that it was just an MTV movie with a lot of music videos. And I think even Stallone argued that too. But as for Rocky V, the whole movie is a train wreck. It's got some great scenes in it, but the movie itself, the basic plot and how things progress throughout the movie, it's a train wreck. Well, tell me what you think, my friends. Drop your comments below. Let me know. And until the next time, God bless.